Randy Evans is a newspaper columnist. He writes a weekly column. In his April 9th, 2010 column entitled Symptoms of Bigger Problems, Randy laments the rash of suicide in this most prosperous country on the face of the earth. He indicates that there are 33,000 people of all ages take their own life every year. Of late, there are many bright, intelligent, Ivy League educated who are taking their own life. And I personally couldn't help as I read this column, and I was thinking of from my travels around the globe and how I saw just about in every capital city of the world as I'll be driving by and the American embassy, and there are thousands of people lining up to get into the United States. And yet, 33,000 of our citizens committing suicide every year. Randy's conclusion is what really struck a chord with me. And he basically said, I'll put it in my own words. He said, as these people feel that the foundation under them is crumbling, they lose hope for the future. As they feel the foundation under them is crumbling, they lose hope for the future. And if there is one thing that I am sure of, is the fact that the foundation is crumbling under our feet. The foundation that was built on the truth of the Word of God is systematically being dismantled. And that is why I'm calling this series of messages, The Truth, the Most Endangered Species. We all have been seeing of late how government leaders and politicians and mainstream media, how their disregard for the truth that's causing our society literally to lose its mooring. But this near extinction of the truth in our society did not start with the government. It started with the church. And it's no use pointing fingers. The fingers need to be pointed at us. For I have said this, and I will say it till the day I die. As goes the church, so goes society. As goes the pulpit, so goes the culture. For over 50 or more years ago, mainline Christian denominations began to depart, wholesale departure from biblical truth, and society has followed. Then today, this destruction of biblical truth, which started in the mainline liberal denominations, is now invading what is so-called evangelical churches. The word evangelical just now came to mean anything and everything that I hardly call myself an evangelical anymore. But this molestation of the truth is no longer over there in the liberal land. It's right there in the evangelical churches. It's in our midst. The so-called emerging church, which is attracting hordes of young people, they are on a mission to blur the truth. They are on a mission to undermine the truth. They are on a mission to muddy the truth. They are on a mission to eclipse the truth. Some of their gurus are teaching that the Christian message should be kept ambiguous, deliberately. And millions of young people are drinking this Kool-Aid. They're reading their books and they're following their teachings. Rob Bell said that about this new type of Christianity that he had discovered. He said the Bible is in the center for us, but it's a different kind of center. Well, how many centers are there? McLaren declared that it is true humility to acknowledge that we are uncertain about the truth. True humility, that's the height of arrogance. Please listen to me. Uncertainty, doubt, tolerance, skepticism is today's gospel, according to the emerging church. The foundation is being destroyed. And the Bible said when the foundation is destroyed, what can the righteous do? This subtle deception of the modern called Christian evangelical writers in misleading young people into thinking that if we're going to reach the postmodern culture of today, we not only should speak the language, but we should ape them. But in the process, what they do, they're adapting the Christian faith to culture instead of calling culture to repentance and faith in the Lord Jesus Christ. The one passion they have is they want to be accepted by society. And that's a danger for all of us. The moment you set your sights on being accepted, on being liked by the world and accepted by society, that's where danger is. What they're doing is they're basically reviving the old liberalism of apostasy, except they're putting it in a new dress. And unbelievers are saying, we love this type of Christianity. We love this kind of ambiguity. We love this type of doubt. We love this type of uncertainty. It suits us fine. And the first casualty of this type of assault is the truth. And yet Jesus said, you shall know the truth. Not be ambiguous about the truth. You shall know the truth. In fact, the word know is that you're going to believe the truth. And when you go to believe the truth, that truth is going to set you free. In John chapter 8, Jesus said, if you hold to my teaching and you are really my disciples, then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Not doubting the truth, not muddying the truth, not being convoluted about the truth, not being deliberately vague about the truth. No, he said, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. The idea that the Christian message should be kept pliable, ambiguous, is a very popular one, particularly among young people, which it breaks my heart. Because by nature, we all love the spirit of the age. We all love to live worldly lives. Sadly, I get to see genuine Christians who get caught in these falsehoods, and they are devastated. I meet them on the other side of the devastation. And I say genuine believers because, listen to me, not everybody goes to church is a genuine believer. Not every pastor who stands in the pulpit is a genuine believer in the truth of Jesus Christ. And the Bible warns us about the wolves in sheep's clothing. And that is why there is a warning that comes to us from the Epistle of Jude. And it is extremely relevant to our culture. Jude, half-brother of the Lord Jesus Christ, wrote only one epistle, it's one chapter, which I will be studying in the next several weeks. The Epistle of Jude is all about the truth of our faith and the vital importance for genuine believers to contend for that truth. Contending for the truth is the key word in that whole chapter. You remember Pontius Pilate asked Jesus, he said, what is truth? And Jesus, of course, saw in that question his dismissive attitude, so he would not answer the question. And yet Jesus again and again confirmed to the disciples, what is the truth? He told them over and over the importance of knowing the truth, of believing the truth. Why? Listen to me, because truth impacts every thought that we have. Truth colors every belief that we hold dear. Truth surrounds every relationship that we get into. Truth frames every fact in life. Truth guides every thought that we have. So what is the truth? According to the Word of God, truth is God's self-revelation. Truth is everything that to do with God, with the mind of God, and with the will of God and with the character of God. And that is why God is the original author of the truth. He is the source of all truth. He is the decider of the standards of the truth. He is the final judge of expression of the truth. And that is why the Old Testament speaks of God as the God of all truth. Not just a little bit of it, all of it. Jesus, who is the full revelation of God the Father, said, I am the truth. Jesus and Jesus alone is the truth incarnate. Jesus alone is the perfect expression of God's truth. Jesus alone is God's self-revealing of the truth. The Christian faith does not just contain some truth, and then the other religions contain other truth. And when all the religions get together and hold hand and sing Kumbaya, we have all the truth. See, that's what some evangelicals are teaching. And that is modern day idolatry. Jesus is the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth. There is no truth apart from him. There is no truth besides him. There is no truth equal to him. There is no truth that exists away from him. And no wonder the main characteristics of the postmodern culture, which many a church are emulating today, the main characteristic is the rejection of any expression of certainty of the truth. In other words, they say, there are many truths. Jesus said, you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Hear me right on this one. There can be no freedom from sin and guilt apart from Jesus, who is the truth. There can be no freedom from self-doubt and self-loathing apart from Jesus, who is the truth. There can be no freedom from fear and anxiety and worry apart from Jesus, who is the truth. There can be no freedom from the performance trap apart from Jesus, who is the truth. There can be no freedom from hatred and bitterness and anger apart from Jesus, who is the truth. There can be no freedom from pride and failure apart from Jesus, who is the truth. And yet, contending for the truth of our faith is not unique to our generation. This warning that we'll be looking at from the Epistle of Jude is not unique to our culture. It's not unique to our time. This exhortation is not new. From the very early days of the church, the devil has been orchestrating an assault on the truth. He really has. In fact, just about all the epistles have been written to combat a variety of forces of deception. But I want you to remember this. The Church of Jesus Christ, faithful Church of Jesus Christ, never got destroyed from outside attack. Outside attack on the Church of Jesus Christ causes it to be strong. It strengthens it. It is the attack from the inside that weakens the church. And so the devil works overtime in trying to destroy the Church of Jesus Christ from the inside. Always tries to do an inside job. And that is why he brings wolves. Have you ever seen a wolf? Wolves, they come into the church, they look like sheep. I mean, they speak like sheep. They act like sheep, and they dress like sheep. And they do a number on the real sheep. And the problem is, listen to me, the problem is this inside job would not have lasted in many a church if they were alert, if the sheep is discerning. Those of us who have lived long enough have seen churches and Christian institutions, educational institutions that were strong, spiritually strong, biblically vibrant. They were active. Now they have become spiritually dead. And that is why Jude tells us he tells us that we must be contenders for the truth of the faith. I'm going to explain this a lot more in the next few weeks. And Peter tells us to be on our guard, spiritually speaking, all the time, to be spiritually sober, to be spiritually alert, so that we may not get snookered by those sheep like wolves. Judas was a disciple of Jesus. He was one of the 12 nonetheless. He was a wolf in sheep's clothing. Jesus knew it. Even the other disciples may have had their doubt, but Jesus knew it. He had the light of Christ, but he never received the life that only Christ gives. He was a taster of the truth, but he never swallowed it. You know how they do it in wine tasting? Now, I'm not an expert in that subject, but I know how it works. Okay, some of you might be surprised, but look, just trust me. You know, they take a sip and they run it around in their mouth and they spit it out. There are some people who hear the truth and then they walk outside the church and spit it out. Never ingest it. They're just tasters of the truth. They're not swallowers of the truth. And Judas was a taster, not a swallower. Wow. And because their nature never changed, because the very core of the Christian faith is that when you come to Christ in repentance and faith, the Holy Spirit comes in you and change your nature and give you a divine nature to make you alert and aware and you know right from wrong. But those people who are wolves looking like sheep, their heart never changed, never been regenerated. And so many of the so-called evangelical preachers and authors and speakers, they are misleading millions of people by their subtle denial of the truth. And so I know there's a question on the part of some of you probably saying, well, can they deceive a true believer into losing his or her salvation? And the answer, unequivocally, no. Jesus said, those whom the Father has given me, I'll lose none. In fact, that is why Jude begins his one chapter and ends in that one chapter, that epistle, by the security of the believer. He begins talking about the eternal security of the believers in Christ, and then he concludes his epistle by reminding us that God is the one who's able to keep the believers from falling. But the devil, who appears like an angel of light, infiltrates the church. His foot soldiers, when they infiltrate the church, they can cause the real sheep a great deal of pain and grief and horror and a confusion. Someone said that the Epistle of Jude has been relevant for 2,000 years, but it is particularly relevant in these end times. The church started with the Acts of the Apostles, and from everything I read in the epistles is going to end with the Acts of the Apostates. In fact, the Apostle Paul agrees with that in 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1. He said, in the latter times, some will abandon the faith. You say, you already just told us that you can't lose your salvation. Oh, yes, because you see, these look-alike sheep, when they abandon the faith, people are going to be discouraged. But you see, they were never sheep to begin with. Their nature has never been changed to begin with. The Epistle of Jude is an alarm bell to all believers who are living in these end times. Beloved, ignorance of the truth, denial of the truth, being ambivalent about the truth, will cause far greater death than the physical death. It will cause eternal death. And that is why we must be contenders for the truth. I know probably some of you are saying, well, Michael, do you have to really be a stickler for accuracy in every area of biblical truth? Let me actually give you an answer from a great guy, Don Shula, the former coach of Miami Dolphins. Don Shula was being interviewed by a reporter. And here's what he said. He said, "We never let an error go unchallenged. For uncorrected errors multiply." How many of us know that that's absolutely true in our lives? And the reporter replied, he said, "Isn't there a benefit of overlooking a small flaw?" And Shula said, "What is a small flaw? What is a small flaw?" Beloved, how many of us see the small flaws in our lives and we wink at them? And as Shula said, they never stay small. They multiply. But that's where it starts with each one of us. But you know, from the human point of view, I really understand this. I really do. From the human point of view, we don't want to go into the trouble of confrontation, so we just keep our mouths shut. But as Shula said, uncorrected errors multiply. I can tell you with all truthfulness that when my kids were growing up, it was hard, it was difficult to continuously confront them, always. There are many times when I just wanted to give up. It's too much work. I know that. I do get tired of confrontation or small flaws in the church. But believe me, we cannot afford to let up on the smallest of flaws to the truth, because they will multiply. Correcting errors, cleansing sin in our life, and cleansing sin in the church, dealing with the truth is always painful. But the health of the body is dependent on it. Our stewardship demands it.
If you'd like to learn how to know God in a personal way, ask for the booklet, Finding the Joy You've Always Wanted. It will tell you of God's love for you and explain how to experience His forgiveness. If you have a personal relationship with God and you're interested in walking closer with Him, the booklet 7 Steps in Your Faith Adventure will help guide you into a deeper fellowship with your Heavenly Father. Ask for your free booklet